7 o'clock, so I will call to order the regular board meeting of the Downers Grove Park District for Thursday, November 21st, 2024. First item is roll call, please.
Mr. Bender,
Here.
Mr. Dahlstrom,
Here.
Mr. Katula,
Here.
Mr. Lunt,
Aye.
Ms.
Here.
McDonald.
Next, I invite everybody to join us.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Bill, do we have any changes to the agenda?
We do not.
Thank you. So, next item on the agenda is recognition of visitors.
No visitors online.
We online, we do have.
There, if you would.
Oh,
please.
okay, sure.
Thank you.
John Ladon, 1930, 55th place. I signed in when I came in. I own the Charles Blodgett House at the south end of Prince Pond. It's the middle house on the south end. And I was instrumental in the mid-90s to 1999, bringing the village, the park district, and the residents around Prince Pond together to design, engineer, and budget the work that was done that we all enjoy still today. At Tuesday's village council meeting, after a very long council meeting, they had the manager's report, and there was a substantial number of Prince Pond neighborhood residents there. And the concern was the future land use map that was presented by the village had the southeast corner of Prince Pond colored red, which meant it was downtown zoning, similar to what we would have on Main Street. And the residents around Prince Pond were concerned that the downtown was going to encroach the residential neighborhood, which of course butts up against Prince Pond. So after about an hour of discussions, questions and answers, that was determined that that corner is going to continue to stay as downtown transition. It's not going to be downtown zoning, because if it's downtown zoning, it allows much heavier development. So I just letting the park board know that they're looking at that corner again. The residents are gonna push really hard to keep it at least downtown transition. If not, move downtown transition completely off that corner and just leave it the residential R5 zoning that it is now. So I'm not asking you to do anything. I'm just informing you that there was a concern of encroaching onto Prince Pond, which of course is park property. So that's just wanted to make that communication to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Is there more information we can get on this?
No, I have no information, but I will follow up. So I did attend the meeting on Tuesday, and then I can reserve that for commissioner comments. It's at the meeting, so we can do. If you prefer, or you want to.
You can go now, but that's subject.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of attending the meeting, and I want to commend our residents, really a good group of people that I met that night. Very concerned about preserving the historic area around Prince Pond. I mean, enthusiastically supporting and what pride they take in the village. I did write a couple of comments, and one of the things that struck me, and as I left the meeting and was thinking about it, is the one thing this park district does exceptionally well is preserving the heritage of Downers Grove, which you can't put a price tag on. It is amazing how much dedication this staff has and the board to preserving the Blodgett House, museum campus, and just all of our parks in general. Prince Pond is a special area. A lot of memories are made at Prince Pond. As you know, we had residents, the historic value, you can't, again, put a price tag on any of that. That Prince Pond area, I think we need to preserve as much as we possibly can. It's where a lot of kids first learn to fish, ice skate, sitting in the gazebo. I mean, it's just a special area that you can't duplicate anywhere. And if you try to, I think you'd fail miserably. So if what I'm asking our commissioners is that if they would entertain an idea to maybe either pass a resolution or just encouraging the village council to take into the historical significance of the Prince Pond area, not encroaching, not, offering any advice or anything else, but just at least consider the historical and preservation history of Prince Pond. Once it's gone, it's gone. Seriously, it'll never be that same treasure that we've always had. I'm not opposed to development. I get it. We have to keep afloat as a municipality. And as we budget, we benefit from that. But listening to the residents, listening to the feedback, understanding some of the input from the community, that would be my recommendation to my council, fellow board members.
If you guys haven't been following this issue, I was watching online, I wasn't there, but just to give a little more context, if you haven't followed this, up by detail. So in 2005, this plot of land at Warren and Saratoga was rezoned to this downtown transition zoning. The specifics of that zoning would allow like hair salons, some other types of business, some other types of multifamily housing. Right now, no structure could be built on that land that is taller than 36 feet tall. So pretty normal size house. So the mayor in his comments wanted to make clear that they can't put a condo complex, apartment complex on there. Right now, the current zoning limits any building there to 36 feet tall. Apparently, when this village made their plan in 2017, and again, these planning documents, they're nice, pretty maps, representations, but they're not legally binding anything. The city failed to mark that territory as downtown transition in that map, as they should have. So people feel, slighted that they didn't, like, nobody told them if you looked at the map that's online today, it doesn't show that it's downtown. You would have to really read the zoning code. And there's not too many people who go out there and really read zoning codes. You want to look at the map and see what the zoning is. So the village at this time is not considering changing the zoning to that property. At this time, the village is making their master plan and wanting to put the red color in this zone to show that it's downtown zoning. Now, it's not an unrealistic threat that something could happen to those properties. There is one landowner who owns at least 3 properties there, maybe 5. Is it 3 of the 5?
3 of the 5.
3 of the 5 that owns 3 of them that might want to sell. And of course, if that were to happen, what is allowed under that downtown transition zoning could go in there. So there is a concern there. But I just want to make sure that people know what the village is, their current status is whether they mark this master plan with this color or not. The residents are allowed to petition the village to change the zoning back to residential. Of course, with the audience that was there that night, unanimously, that's what the folks wanted to have happen. 2 village council members, the mayor and 1 village council member, kind of spoke in favor of doing multifamily housing there. Kind of one of the references was made to the Washington and Rogers. There's some townhomes there that they can see. I could see something like that. Something was mentioned like that. And there was some calls from the audience, and I think the village seemed open to this idea of in the village plan, since it doesn't legally have to match the zoning, of not making that property red, because the village plan is a vision for the future. And if the village's vision for the future is to have that residential, they shouldn't put it on this plan as downtown transition, even though that is the current status of the zoning there, since 2005. So, and that would just show an intention of the city not intention of the city to want to eventually make it residential, even though there's a whole process that would have to go on there. There's a petition process. And the village was going to look into the outcomes, the effects of, making the map not match the zoning, which is what happened in 2017, right? And nothing happened. I mean, the same thing happened in 2017. the map didn't match the zoning. And, you know, I can't imagine there would be any side effects to, you know, marking the map as residential and not having it match the zoning. I can't foresee any negative side effects there. So just, it is a concerning issue. It is, we don't want the wrong kind of development going in there. We don't want the kind of development going in there that's going to negatively affect the park. But just to talk about the status of where the village is at, it is whether to put it right on a map. They are not, the city is not right now considering changing the zoning.
Thank you. No, and thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate it. You far more eloquently put that. But there's still a, you know, and again, that's why I want to bring it forward. There is a concern. I'm not trying to interfere with another unit of government, but just because of the relationship we have with the village and that particular parcel, I'm just asking, would we consider just in asking them in their decision-making process through this process to remember the historical value of it? That's.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
If we were to designate Prince Pond as historically and culturally significant to the village of Downers Grove, technically that significance would end at the street, at the curb, correct?
That's technically,
Is that my
I
understanding?
think the argument could be sightlines. I think we can make that argument that
Okay.
you had a 5-story. I understand what you were saying, but if something got changed in a 5-6-story building, the sightlines are gonna change dramatically. So what I was gonna say is let me reach out to Dave Fieldman, to see where he's at, let him know what our concerns are for that. I have not talked to him about it. And express that, and that the board is at least contemplating sending some communication over to the village, expressing our concern and wanting to preserve both the integrity of the pond, as well as the sightlines of the pond. You know, I don't even know where the stormwater goes on that, but I have a concern of that. We already, it may go south, but if it goes into the pond, that could potentially change some of the things we do, particularly in the winter there. So I think I need a little more information.
Yeah. That'd be helpful. Thank you for your willingness to do that. And Commissioner Bender, Commissioner Lunt, was there any communication at the board meeting? Or what did you hear an inclination of the participating residents that there was an interest to incorporate into a nonprofit and or association to proactively address the village of Downers Grove?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah. The village, you know, suggested avenues that people have is to try to get a historic designation. You know, look, homeowners don't like a historic designation because it means you basically can't touch your house.
Right.
But it also means other people can't touch their house, right? So the city mentioned that as a option. I wasn't there for that. I didn't. So I don't know if
Yeah,
anybody
we
talked
did.
about it, but that was.
The mayor did mention.
Thank you.
And granted, whatever we do is symbolic anyway.
Yeah.
But again, the cultural significance of that pond and the preservation of it is, I think, important. And definitely the community was out in force and expressed their concerns.
Really, you'll talk to somebody. at the
Yeah,
village.
I'll follow up and then I'll report back to the board.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any written correspondence?
We do not have any now.
And if it's the case, we'll move on to our public hearing on the truth and taxation. So the next item on the next agenda item is a public hearing to receive public comments on the truth and taxation, which are the funds estimated to be raised by taxation for year 2024. At this, I'd like to open the public hearing. I will ask our Director of Finance, Tricia Parkus, to discuss the tax updates.
Thank you. The 2024 tax levy is payable in 2025. The corporate and special purpose property taxes extended for 2023 were $9,278,369.06. The proposed corporate and special purpose property taxes to be levied for 2024 are $9,609,085. This represents a 3.46% increase over the previous year. The property taxes extended for debt service and public building commission leases for 2023 were $884,551.34. The estimated property taxes to be levied for debt service and public building commission leases for 2024 are $1,126,000. This represents a 27.36% increase over the previous year. The total property taxes extended for 2023 were $10,171,880.40. The estimated total property taxes to be levied for 2024 are $10,735,635. This represents an increase of 5.54% over the previous year. There are two sections addressed within the district's tax levy public notice. The first is for the corporate and special purpose levies. These include dollars for the overall operation of the district, including parks, facilities, programming, nature areas, and the museum. The second part is our debt service levy, which is used to pay for debt issuance that fund our capital improvement plan. As taxes are always a year in arrears, 2025 payments are for 2024 taxes. As a result, local governments in Illinois are using the 2023 Consumer Price Index information, which was 3.4%. The year prior to this, CPI grew 6.5% with a two-year total of 9.9%. The Consumer Price Index measures the increase in price of an average basket of goods and service. Therefore, it is a number that has become synonymous, but not exactly equal to inflation. Over the past few years, the district has experienced a considerable amount of inflationary pressure throughout our operations and capital projects for goods, services, and personnel. This caused the district's costs to grow considerably, even while bidding them out or receiving multiple quotes. The district's Board of Commissioners and staff are aware of the impact that rising costs can have on residents and businesses. As a result, the district has posted a tax levy that includes a 1.9% increase for operating needs, plus new construction, plus $100,000 for special recreation to help offset rising costs and inflationary pressures. New construction includes additional homes and businesses within the community. The debt service levy has been kept low for a number of years, with the district choosing to abate taxes on past bond issuances as opposed to levying additional taxes for them. This continues with the district voting this December to abate almost $710,000 of potential taxes and instead use funds generated by other sources. However, in 2022, the district issued a bond for capital construction. This issuance assisted other operating dollars for use on improvements at McCollum Park, including a new path, new pickleball and tennis courts, and of course, the spray ground for the community. At the time of the issuance, the Board of Commissioners stated that we would use taxes to pay for this issuance, but tier the increases over the next 5 tax levies to have a smaller year-to-year impact on residents and businesses. This would then provide funds in the future for continued capital development and improvements within our parks and facilities. Overall, the Downers Grove Park District operates as a small part of the overall Downers Grove property tax bill at about 5.7%. We have been successful at offsetting potential tax increases by other means over a number of years. Staff continues to find efficiencies and cost savings and other means to help fund operations. Staff estimates that the overall increase will cost a homeowner of a $400,000 home about $22 next year. For an $800,000 home, this will increase to about $44. This decision helps to maintain a strong and high-quality park district for the community and continue to strive for our mission statement of enriching our community through natural area preservation and exceptional recreation, parks, and facilities that inspire memorable experiences.
Thank you. Are there any comments from the board members?
First, Tricia, thanks for reading all of that. But also there was a lot of back and forth on the budget this year, I think more than in the past few years that I've been on the board. So I want to thank the staff for working through all of that. I want to thank the commissioners for putting the time into all of that. And all the discussions that took place throughout this process. We are, not maxing out. We are demonstrating fiscal restraint on what we can raise the levy while not affecting services. So I was very happy with all the work that everybody put into this, and I'm sorry to the staff for how much extra work that was, but really appreciate it, and thank you.
Thank you, Greg. No other comments from board members? Is there any written testimony, or is there anybody else here that would like to comment on the tax levy?
We do not have any written.
Then if there's no one else at this time, I declare the public hearing closed. And we will move on to the next agenda item, which is the consent agenda. So turn it over to Bill.
Thank you, Bob. Before I read the consent agenda, I just want to bring to your attention that staff did make one minor change of clarification on the regular minutes from the last meeting in regards to the tax levy. This was item D number 1. There's a line in there that reads, commissioners agree on moving forward with scenario 2, which includes a tax levy reduction of about $6 to $18 per $100,000 home valuation. That's correct, but it isn't capturing exactly what we were talking about. So we changed everything after the $6 to $18 to read for an average home valuation of $400 to $1.2 million. And that's in line with what Trish just read as well. So the minutes in board pack reflect the change. So with that said, we have a number of items for the consent agenda this evening. First, seeking approval of minutes from 10/17/24, regular session minutes, 11/7/24, special session minutes, and 11/7/24, closed session minutes. The treasurer's report, investment report, payment of the bills in the amount of $2,753,911.11. Payout number 2, which is the final payout to Midwest Mechanical Group LLC, administrative building HVAC replacement. Change order number 1, which is a deduct, Rhino Seal Coat Incorporated, district-wide seal coating 2024. Payout number 2, final, Rhino Seal Coat Incorporated, district-wide seal coating 2024. Payout number 1, final, Perfect Turf Distributing LLC, Lloyd and Northside Park Artificial Grass Safety Surfacing. And payout number 6, Recreation Results LLC, Comprehensive Master Plan Update.
Questions or comments?
To adopt the consent agenda as read into the record.
Second.
Okay, questions or comments on it? Discussion? We have a roll call, please.
Mr. Bender,
Aye.
Mr. Lunt,
Aye.
Mr. Dahlstrom.
Aye.
Mr. Cottula.
Items?
The first is we're seeking approval of the 2025 affiliate agreements. And thank you to Commissioner Brender for his assistance in tightening those up. We did have a few outstanding items that were from Paderma. I did send out an email today. We have a hard copy in front of you. And the final document reflects those. Staff recommends approving them as presented. Happy to answer any questions between myself and Dave and Eric.
I just again want to thank staff putting in more time on this agreement than in previous years. Obviously, I had a little more time to look at it this year than in previous years, but it did look significantly better. So I really appreciate all the work that went into it, and I can sleep easier.
Call your help on it.
I recommend we approve these.
Yeah, just a quick question. We receive financial audits from each of the 4 affiliates at the conclusion of their fiscal year. Is that correct?
Yes.
I'd like to request the audits that we received in 2024. That'd be okay?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Make a motion.
Sure. Got it right here. I move to approve the district's 2025 affiliate agreements as presented and provide the executive director with the authority to make any necessary updates or changes that may be needed based on board discussion and or changes to the state or federal laws.
Second.
Discussion. We have roll call then?
Mr. Dahlstrom?
Aye.
Mr. Bender?
Aye.
Mr. Katsula?
Aye.
Mr. Lund?
Aye. Thank you.
You know, next item 2.
Yes, staff is seeking approval for district commissioners interested in attending the 2025 IAPD IPRA Soaring to New Heights Conference in Chicago. Expenses paid by the district at a cost not to exceed $1,327 per commissioner, with formal approval of the final expenses after the conference.
Care to make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moving second. Another discussion for the roll call, please.
Mr. Bender?
Aye.
Mr. Lund?
Aye.
Mr. Dahlstrom?
Aye.
Mr. Katsula?
Agreement. I know.
Yes, staff is seeking approval of agreement and authorize the executive director to enter into a one-year agreement with Kelly Stelter Real Estate as a presenting sponsor of the summer concert series, mid-scale and small-scale special events for 2025 for a total contract value of $20,000. Staff would be able, Dawn would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
One kind of comment, I don't know if it's really all through that, but in the sponsorship book,
Mhm.
there's opportunity, which I love some of the names for the different levels of sponsorships. But the one I had questions about was the pickleball tournament, and
Mhm.
it says tentative. I didn't know if that's something we were looking at partnering with our page, if that should even be in there.
So we have had discussions about that. So staff is still planning to do our Big Dill pickleball tournament outside of what we're doing with the Visitors Bureau. So this would be an additional pickleball tournament that would be a smaller scale. So we decided to leave that one in since that will be run by the district.
Getting back to the,
Just out of curiosity, Eric Hamilton, is there a particular reason why him and his team chose not to renew their?
Yeah, I think, one thing we've noticed over the last couple of years is we've had more difficulty coming to, in our negotiations, coming to terms with, what he wants versus, what's in the best interest of the district. I think, we try really hard to balance our indirect and direct costs with what revenue is coming in from the sponsorship agreements. And I think, throughout the years, there's been a difference of, what we want versus what they want. And I think this year it was just more difficult to find that
Happy medium.
happy medium. Yeah.
Okay.
And we were really pleased. I know Kelly Stetler actually approached us a few years ago with an interest to partner with us on the summer concert series. And she's been very patient and, just kind of waited for her turn. And I know she was just thrilled to be able to fill that role despite, things not working out with Eric Hamilton. So.
Great. Thank you.
any other questions for Dawn? Care to make a motion?
I'll move to authorize the executive director to enter into a one-year agreement with Kelly Stelter Real Estate as the presenting sponsor of the summer concert series, mid-scale and small-scale special events for 2025, a total contract value of $20,000.
Seconded.
And second, other comments, Larry, please.
Mr. Bender?
Aye.
Mr. Lund?
Aye.
Mr. Dahlstrom?
Aye.
Mr. Katsula?
Moving on to board business, comments, but it's been a great season so far. Looking at the registration numbers for recreation, obviously also golf is so popular and here. And I personally part of the haunted house returning to Lincoln Center, which was an experience. And so a lot to be thankful for. It's approach Thanksgiving, so I want to just wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving and hope you can spend some time with friends and family during it. I look forward to seeing you next month during the holiday season. With that,
A comment. So I drive down Warren most days. And so Lloyd Park opening up, and mostly it seems like it's empty, like I don't usually remember seeing people there. Saturday, there was one family there. Sunday, there was two families there. Tuesday, there were three families there. I doubt there was anybody there today, but it's the new park's looking great. People were really enjoying it. It was just really cool to see. Like, I don't usually remember seeing anybody there, and then 3 times driving by there in a row, and there's just more people every time, so. The park looks.
both playgrounds look absolutely great and it's just really nicely done.
No, I do want to wish the staff happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Great job this year, as always. I mean, the programming is spot on and all the work that everybody's put in. So thank you. Have a great holiday, safe holiday. You're planning on traveling and see you at the holiday festivities for sure.
On to staff and committee reports.
I'm gonna follow on the thank yous here a little bit. And I'd like to thank Trish for her first time through the budget and everybody has a hand in that. No one gets out of that. But Trish really is the one that pulls that all together, takes everybody's data. And really works as a team of bringing all the department heads together to collectively figure out how we're going to meet our mission and how we're going to balance needs and resources. And first time through, thank you, Trish. That was a fantastic job. Appreciate that. Also like to thank Dave and Eric for some of the extra work they did with the affiliate group. I agree with you completely. I think it's a much better document than it was before. And then finally, Dawn, congratulations on the big sponsorship. I know she's been working on that for quite a while. It's been a goal of ours to have a larger sponsor like that. And so just wanted to congratulate her on having that happen. A couple other things just want to point out to the board, because our December meeting is so close to this meeting. And it's our only meeting of the month. We do not present staff reports because by the time we prepare them, there's only really like 5 days in between. We will have January reports that'll capture the December reports into that. The January meeting, we meet on the 9th, again, because of the holidays and vacations and things that happen over that period of time. The board pack won't be posted until Monday, January 6th. So that's a Monday instead of the traditional Friday. Reminder, I know some of you were talking about it, but the Economic Development Corporation has their annual open house at 4:30 on December 5th in their offices. And for the first time in, I think, 5 or 6 years, it's not on a board meeting night. So that'll make it where we can attend. December 2nd, if anybody wants to attend, the Grow Foundation is having their annual meeting at 6:30 in the Lincoln Center. That's where they do their awards, and I plan on attending that. And December 19th from 1 to 4, I know some of the board members are talking about that invitation, is our annual staff gathering. And it's Whirlyball this year, changing it up a little bit. And that's all I have at this time. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any other questions for Bill? Move on to number 2, Eric, Deputy Director.
Thank you. I'm gonna try to tiptoe through this so I don't steal anybody's thunder. We did end up receiving a developer donation this year. If you recall, we had budgeted for it and we thought we weren't gonna get it. I think what was it, Paul, a week or two later, all of a sudden, after we had stopped thinking we were gonna get it, we were told we're gonna get it. So that'll bring in a little over $100,000 that we're gonna set aside for McCollum Park for when that project comes on board. The Halloween costume donations, I just got an update from Michelle and she's super excited. Spend some time to separate those, sort those, see what sizes we have, all that kind of stuff. And keep moving forward to then put them aside and get ready for next Halloween. Moving on to some events that are coming up. I know, Bill just listed a few. Honey and centerpieces, evergreen centerpieces. That's going on, and I know they take a lot of pride in both of those. They're very nice, options for anybody's holiday shopping. And we have a bunch of rec events coming up for the holidays, including Candy Cane Lane on the 7th, the Senior Holiday Celebration, the 10th, Merry and Bright, a Victorian Christmas, the 14th, and New Year's Eve countdown to noon on the 31st. So if anyone's interested, please let us know. I know a few of you had issues with trying to reserve for the holiday party and other items. If you have any future ones, please just email Bill, myself, or Aideen, and we'll make sure that you get signed up for those. Chris and I will work with our software provider to make sure that we can try to find a way to have those not blocked anymore. And with that, I'll answer any questions you may have.
When it comes to those developer donations, do we know the particular properties that led to, so the money that we got, do we know?
Do you remember what the property was?
This latest one is one on Main Street, north of the tracks on the east side. They had torn down, I think, 2 or 3 houses a while ago, several months ago, maybe a year ago.
Yeah, so it's
They're now-
empty lot right now.
Empty lot right now, and now they're moving forward with the development, which is, I think, is I believe apartments, condos, yeah.
They're south of Franklin.
Right, yeah.
So now we get that paid out based on the number of residents that'll include. And those funds go towards either that specific area or something that benefits the district as a whole, since McCollum's flagship.
And then it says here that you met with the the sports commission after our last board meeting. Did we come to terms on the 50-50 share or anything?
They're in agreement with all that. I did notify them that in the future that could change. They are comfortable with that. We're both going to keep track of everything that we're bringing to this event so that next year we have the full presentation for the board. And we also talked that right after the event ends in May, that we'll kind of put all our dollars together so that we can plan a better, more thorough budget after having done it 1 year to see what we can plan for next year too.
Excited if we can bring people into Downers Grove.
We're very hopeful.
Two questions. Is there an update on the ordinances we had sent back for revision?
The conduct and park ordinance.
Yes.
I believe Bill has talked a little bit about that with Dirk Price, and he's going to come out in the first quarter of next year with a fully revamped version and present it to the board.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna look at that from top to bottom, make sure it flows correctly. We started looking at it, and it's what's happened over the years is something comes up and we just throw it in and don't look at the whole thing. So we want to take the time to really look at it from beginning to end.
I mean, I'm sure we want to get that before we open up the season.
Correct, yeah. Yeah, spring will be. The main issue.
Okay. The other quick question, who won the scarecrow contest?
Michelle can handle that one.
Well, I have an email out to Ryan May when at Lyman Task.
Okay,
And so I'll find out, and we're gonna invite them to a near future.
excellent. They did some really good, there was some really good stuff out there. Thank you, Eric. That's all I need.
Eric, quick question on the EV charging stations.
Mhm.
I'm curious if the vendor that we're partnering with is evaluating all of our district facilities and assets, or if we provided a defined list where we'd like to potentially see stations.
So I've been working with Kevin on this a little bit, and what happened here is I found a vendor that actually has recently partnered with Joliet. I don't know if anybody heard, the governor was down there
Yeah.
for some
Yeah.
openings of those. He also partnered with Westmont and some other individuals. And the way they handle it is they give you a free estimate up front of what they can do for you, what kind of contracts they can come up with, what kind of split. And what we did is we had Kevin go out with them and they usually recommend 3 or 4 of your highest use facilities, 3 or 4 of your highest use parks. They're also in the right locations that would suit the need for it, kind of like what we talked about in the past. So Kevin, you took them around.
It was the rec center, the golf course and McCollum Park. So I took them there. They're gonna present us with a quote. The challenge is just discussing it a little bit with the company is, the contract length, which was, most of them want a 5 to 7 year contract, just payback. If they provide the chargers and things like that. So he's gonna look to a lot of his vendors and see what they offer and what they can come up with. Cause I did let him know that, the max we can go is 36 months. So he's gonna look into that. And he's gonna dig a little bit deeper into some of it just to present us with, something that we could actually proceed with. But we'll bring back to the board kind of what they bring back to us. But the challenge is, like I said in the past, where with 4 or 5 other vendors that I looked at was the contract length.
The hopeful part of this is when I talked to the owner of this group, he said that they have worked with other park districts. They've found ways to make it work, whether it be grant money, whether it be a low ROI, whatever that is. In addition, they're not in a hurry to put in EV for us everywhere. They look at this as a long-term investment relationship that, hey, if we get a few done up front, they work out well, we can talk about more in the future. It's like one of them I had brought up is, hey, if we have a park where we have like disc golf, somebody comes out to play that for an hour, that would be a place. And he said he's seen stuff like that. It's often a little bit harder to get some of his contractors to work on some of those that they think may not be used as much.
Yeah, it's longer.
But he said the way in is to start with the high use areas.
Sure.
Because then you build those relationships. And
Was there any conversation about the Lincoln Center?
I had brought up the Lincoln Center too to him. That was another location.
So that's something I think what we want to do is get back what they have to offer. And then we could always look at other options as far as different locations and things, but just based on the amount of time that I put into it and found out that it was very difficult for us to move forward with some of these contracts and things like that. I would rather just see what he has to offer and then go from there.
The goal is to keep trying, but not spend too much resource time up front. Because everything has to work out right. Works out great, like it happened for Joliet.
Yeah, I think Lincoln Center is particularly interesting, right? Given the district's, long-term plans to potentially relocate there and being centrally located within the village. We also own some additional assets there. It could be a good location for us, fully understanding. It's not the most high use of the 3 that you previously mentioned.
The good news is it sounds like ComEd has some really lucrative rebates on a lot of this. They came out with them in the fall of last year, but they were trying to figure out how they were going to allocate them and things like that. But now it sounds like the program is gotten off to a good start. So he said that this year, later this year, they offered a lot. I don't know how many million, but he said next year looks even better. So we'll see how that goes.
Thank you.
Move on to recreation, Dave.
Thank you. A couple quick fun items to highlight in the report.
You may have noticed the youth basketball league, the fall youth basketball league continues to grow. We saw pretty significant growth. We have over 100 compared to last year, and then 2 years ago, it's about 130. So that's exciting news. We recently had in October, the second annual Touch a Truck / Trick or Treat Trail held in McCollum Park. There were 15 organizations that brought out all kinds of different vehicles for the kids to climb on. And then 221 kids actually took part in the Trick or Treat Trail that was staffed by some of the rec staff and some volunteers. And as Bob mentioned, the haunted house is back. And the credit for that haunted house goes to Claire Kent. She was the driving force behind it. She came up with all the themes. She came up with a lot of if you saw the tablets with the history kind of thing, that was all Claire. It was her idea. And I believe Michelle may have caught Commissioner Katula off guard in her costume. So, and then you may have noticed also Lyman Woods continues to be the beneficiary of some Eagle Scout projects. We had 2 more completed right now, and probably over the last several years, I think we've had 5 or 6, projects done, which of course those are free, and that benefits the, Lyman Woods. So we welcome those kind of projects. I can answer any other questions if you have any.
Michelle, were you one of the wall people?
I was.
Okay, fitness?
Sure. The main thing to highlight in fitness is, as we were expecting, you'll see that pretty much all of our membership areas went up, increased, and that's kind of, we thought, and it proved out. As the weather starts changing, that's traditionally when people come back inside and you start to see the numbers go up. So we had anywhere from a 3% increase in total memberships. I think our full price memberships went up 4%. So we're very pleased on that. We anticipate that that's going to continue. Dawn will be doing a lot of marketing, especially get closer to the beginning of the year where there's specials and things to attract. The one thing that we think the amount of voters that came through this building, Michelle was informed from the election commission, there was about 20,000 people. So we're pretty confident that some of those 20,000 translated into memberships because they walked around and looked at our equipment but 5 weeks, 20,000 people came through this building. That's, pretty significant. So it sounds like we were able to maybe capitalize on that a little bit. So that's it for the fitness report. If there's any other questions, be happy to answer.
Dave, quick question, Walking for Wellness, did that take place on the track? Is that outdoors?
What was that?
The Walking for Wellness program, was that indoors on the track or was that outdoors?
It's outdoors at different parks.
It was,
I
okay,
think they only had to come inside once. 'Cause
Okay.
It was such a beautiful
Yeah.
fall.
right.
But yeah, they took place at different parks, and the instructor would give wellness tips while they were walking and different things they can do at home.
Got it. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I think it was Monday before Election Day. I was here working. You couldn't even get in the parking lot. You took it was like playing Frogger.
Yeah.
And the line was wrapped around almost to Belmont. It was insane, absolutely insane. But I managed to get a grueling workout in.
Nothing else on fitness. We'll go on to golf.
Golf. Well, I think the numbers speak for themselves, and John mentioned earlier, it's been a successful year. I actually happened to meet with Ken today on some wrap-up stuff, and he told me that we are projecting, so if you've seen the report at the end of October, we were at 42,000 rounds. Ken told me today we're projecting to exceed 47,000 rounds for the year. And again, last year we were at almost 2.3 million at the end of the year. As of today, I ran some numbers and it looks like we're at about 2.3 right now, with still things to come and some to be posted. Play for this year is going to be next Wednesday. Of course, that's all weather dependent, but based on the forecast, and there's some 20s out there coming up, it looks like, then Wednesday is probably going to be our last day, which we will communicate to the users. And we also have some hours planned to have staff in the clubhouse prior to Christmas. So people want to come in and, buy last minute Christmas gifts. We will have, hours established for that purpose.
Gift cards will be available for purchase online through T-Snap, so that will, that'll always be available, but we're planning on that. At the bottom of the report, Ken highlighted that with the season winding down, now the clubhouse is a little more available. We're starting to host rental events. They had a 50th anniversary for Downers North High School was there recently. He told me today they've got the next couple weekends, they've got holiday parties and they have a couple baby showers sprinkled in there too. So now we're able to take more advantage during this part of the season for that point, that purpose. And that's just an added benefit. And at the, you may have noticed in the report, there were some pictures of the projects that Jeff Posen was working on. And as of now, the bunker, the number 5 bunker renovation, and then the upper T on hole 8, they are complete. And Ken said actually that's perfect because now the sod's down and the snow came and covers it. It's gonna be very beneficial for making that take root, so to speak. I can answer any other questions if you have any.
Not a question, the numbers all look great, but I finally got a chance to play the course for the first time in 20 years. And my friend's dad, who's lived in Downers Grove as long as I have, as soon as he found out I was a commissioner, the first thing he said to me was, I talked about this practice area over here. So he's like, you used to be able to hit balls over here. The concerns that have been expressed here before are at the top of people's minds. I'm sure you guys know that thing at the course more than me, but I just thought it was funny that that was the immediate first reaction you had to finding out I was a commissioner. So looking forward to being able to tackle that, I think, in 2 years.
Yeah, and one of the other things Ken and I spoke about today was developing a timeline for next year about how we would, when we're going to talk to a potential architect for that area. And of course, we'll bring that back to the board once we have a little more solidified on that.
I love the fact that food and bev and merchandise is near 20%, sorry, they're 13% of total revenue, which is just fantastic. Driving our 5 years ago, and we were lucky if we eclipsed 5% of total revenue for food, bev, and merchandise. So, such a wonderful growth area, it's an amenity for the public.
Well, it was definitely a goal was to have a mix of revenue sources and not just green fees.
Yep.
And the revenue per round.
Yep.
And you can see numbers, and certainly I think the rebranding helped a lot of that and brought people in, and I think the increased quality of the merchandise that we sell with the rebranding has really paid off.
Anything else for Dave? Move on to marketing, don't?
Things. On Wednesday, we completed website enhancements. So a large part of that project was making some navigation changes so that things are easier to be viewed on mobile devices. We also made some content revisions, and then another big part of the project was the back end. So we have a new content management system, which makes it a lot easier for us to make changes to the website. So that's all complete. I've been working with staff to communicate our new QIT virtual waiting room feature that'll be launched on December 3rd. So we have 2 e-blasts that are going out to communicate that to residents. We have one that's going out hopefully tomorrow. We just need to finalize some changes, and then we'll shoot it back out next week on Tuesday. And then we're going to be doing a week long of social media posts, kind of reminding folks on how they can make the registration process go more easy for them, and just how to make sure that their accounts are all up to date so they're not waiting until the last second to make those changes. So hopefully that will help to make sure we have a very easy and seamless registration day. And then our winter spring registration guide has gone out. I know Bob mentioned that we had some missed households. I have heard from a few others that we had some issues with delivery, so I will be contacting the service again to remedy some of those issues that we had. And then the last thing I wanted to chat about was our sponsorship and advertising materials are in the board pack for you. We also have a new marketing plan that outlines all of our goals and tactics with a detailed calendar for next year. So we've already been meeting with all of our existing 2024 sponsors to get those folks to sign back on for next year. And then we have a direct mailing that'll be going out at the beginning of December to target new businesses and start growing our sponsorship base. So more to come on that, but that's been a busy month, so. Any questions for me?
I just have a quick question. What is your plan and staff's plan for us to review the Adventure Falls survey? Are you thinking you'd like to do that in the month of December? Or would it be more prudent for us to conduct that after the holiday season?
So what we would like to do is pull all that data together. Staff's already started working on some of the information that was requested from the board at the last meeting, kind of a wrap up from last season.
Yeah.
Get that all together, take what we're hearing from the survey.
Yep.
And then put together a budget and a plan and an operating.
Okay. January.
So probably January by the time we flush through all that.
I don't think we're in a rush.
No, we're not in a rush. There is and John and I talked about it, talked with Michelle as well. There's, the brochure cycles happen so early. That happens in January. We don't have to put the actual fees into the brochure. Most people get it online and from other sources anyway. So I think it makes more sense for us to take our time and do this analysis correctly and put the plan together correctly than rushing to get a brochure deadline in. So probably January, but we want to give you a full analysis, both of what happened and where we think we're going.
Great. Okay. Thank you. I'm in agreement.
Yeah, and then in the summer guide, we'll have a full page ad talking about Adventure Falls and then, telling people we'll have information available on the website. So
Okay.
it'll be more of a teaser approach.
Sure. Thank you.
Excellent question. I was gonna ask the same thing, John. Keep it to a question.
So
Thank you.
staff's already working on the summer guide, so we do the download on Monday, so.
We're done with marketing, move on to planning and construction.
Good evening. To revisit the playground projects, Northside Park Playground actually did open on October 28th. And then Loy Playground, we had a slight delay due to a missing piece, or rather a wrong piece was shipped with the equipment, so they had to wait for the replacement piece. So, but that did open last Thursday, as Commissioner Bender mentioned. And then the contractor was there then Friday and Saturday doing kind of the restoration around the outside of the playground. One of the nice things is that with the new synthetic turf surfacing, kids will be able to play on that playground even in December, tomorrow even, if the snow melts, that it's not muddy, it's not, kids can be on the playground using it even when it's not perfect weather, as opposed to sometimes the mulch was a little messy and after rain and that kind of thing. And then just real quick, I included some photos in the board report of the storm structures that the village installed at Sterling North Park. They're pretty impressive, large concrete vaults that are now underground, just off the intersection of Curtis and Glenview. They're waiting, so all of the vaults and the underground structures are in place, but they're waiting for the pumps. The pumps and the generator are delayed. They're long lead time on those. With recent hurricanes, a lot of those ended up going to Florida. So they're anticipating getting those pumps in sometime after the first of the year, more likely in the spring. Luckily, the vaults that are in place can actually take water at this point. They will actually provide some benefit so that hopefully that intersection doesn't flood. If they do get a rain event, the water will still make its way into those vaults. And if we get a really big rain event, they can still drop portable pumps into those pits to pump it out, which is a little bit easier than they used to have pumps in the intersection trying to pump all that water out. So even though they're not fully functional yet with the pump stations, it will start to provide some benefit to that neighborhood. So, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Correct me if I'm wrong, they're not pumping that back into the creek, are they?
They are.
They are. Okay, so it holds it to the water and then they'll pump it right back in.
Yeah, unfortunately, that intersection is kind of a depression essentially that the water should make its way to the creek. All the surrounding area, the water flows downhill to the creek, but that one spot just was holding water. So this now will take it out of the intersection through storm sewers.
Okay.
Put it in this underground vault, and then from there they'll pump it over the ridge essentially, then down to the creek.
Thanks.
Once the vault is fully operational, on the first, heavy inclement weather day, whether that's rain or snow, I think there's potentially a photo opportunity for staff when water is not backing up in the middle of the street.
Right.
Anything else for Paul?
But do they anticipate that park will be operational though? Because they're part of the agreement, they're gonna restore it, correct?
Right.
Okay,
They already actually repaved a new driveway over the top of the vault.
okay.
And then beyond the vaults, they storing it with turf. So we probably can't drive on it right now. It's too soft, but the idea is that after that turf grows, after the seed grows and we have turf next year, we should be able to drive on it again.
And then you take the final walkthrough to determine whether or not they've, okay.
Thanks, Paul. Can you do me a favor? I think maybe just, certainly on behalf of the board, can you thank James too?
Sure.
I know that he's quite helpful.
Yep. He did manage the two playgrounds.
Right, and is integral to this process, so we don't often see James. But
Sure.
recognize that he's very much present and responsible.
I will let him know. Thank you.
Anything else, Parks and Facilities? Kevin?
Yeah, good evening. So Parks and Facilities have been very busy. He planted 52 trees. They're just kind of broken down into the different locations. And then 15 memorial trees. There was a handful that we had to replace just drought this summer. So we got those all in. And then we did 18 removals as well. Staff is just wrapping up all the winterization of the parks and, getting the fields all tidied up for the winter. And then we received our last truck last week. So we received all of our vehicles and equipment from our purchase this year. And then in facilities, we painted the exterior of the administration building and did some caulking as well, the exterior. And then we painted all the parking lot light poles out here as well. It's not fancy, but it needed it. They were starting to rust out. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Kevin? And Tricia, Finance?
Good evening. No real surprises for the month of October. Our cash remained very strong and in line with prior years. Revenues are tracking at 97% of budget compared to 93% at the same time last year. And operating expenses are in line with our expectations, and we currently expect to finish the year with a 1% to 2% operating efficiency in this area. Since you won't be seeing financials again for the remainder of the year, not until January. If you missed it during the payment of bills information, we did make our final debt payments for the year, which was just under 1.4 million. And then we will have the remaining expenses going out the door for the playgrounds, which are large capital expenses. So I just wanted to call that out. And I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thanks for being judicious with all of our financials, driving toward positive operating leverage. Appreciate it.
Report. Nothing else, then we'll move on to technology, Chris.
Thank you. So there's only one item that I want to highlight on my report, and that is the server project. The server is fully installed, running and ready to go at Tolo. The registration system has been fully migrated to it and running. The waiting room is ready to go, and we are all set ready for December 3rd, the big registration event. So, and in the board report toward the bottom, I did include some pictures of the server racked and installed at one. One other item I wanted to add on is the pedestrian count that I have in my board report as well. You'll see that in October, the recreation center saw a lot of people. Heading on to Dave's Visitors here for October. What it does not capture is election eve in November. That will be on the next one. So that's
Yeah, we'll need to highlight October and November as an election year, so the year over year.
And I think that number's higher. What I don't think that counter does is when people are standing in line, like I saw on election eve, and they're underneath that counter, I don't think it's capturing people as quite as well.
Got it.
But I would be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Chris? Okay, no, you wanted to ceasefire?
Thanks in your budget, happenings that they have, we'll be happy to answer any questions. Have on that. Also in your pack under ceasefire info, it's just some of their data that they provide to us as the board. And then also some information on their holiday spectacular as well as Believe and Achieve. If you'd like to attend either one of those, please let myself or a dean know, and we will register you. And I do plan on going to both. I can answer any questions.
Okay, then, unfinished business.
Thanks. First, I'm going to turn it over to Paul for capital discussion. It's just a follow up from discussions we had before. We have a couple, Paul has background information on how we assess capital needs. And we also have a couple of different scenarios. Board's comfortable tonight to give staff direction as to what scenario they like, that would be fine. However, we can also wait until the next meeting in December to have a little more discussion on that. We would like to have some discussion in December so that come fiscal year in January, Paul can actually start and James start working on some of those projects, particularly the playground projects, because they take some time to design and put together and get it out. So.
Thanks, Bill.
You want to wait for John to come back for this, so.
The Pierce Center Playground, when was that last installed? Prince Pond.
Oh, Prince Pond. That one. Prince Pond was 2002.
Sorry.
We didn't want you to miss anything.
I came in.
All right. Thank you. So at the September board meeting, we presented a 5-year capital improvement plan. We discussed some possible projects, capital projects for next year, for the next 2 years, actually. At that meeting, there was some discussion related to different projects that were listed. So we have this evening, we prepared an alternate plan for consideration as well. But we also wanted to share some of the backup information that supports our capital project list. For example, parking lots. We have 28 parking lots. Fun fact, we have the Park District owns and maintains 735,000 square feet of asphalt parking. That's almost 17 acres of parking. To help us to better understand the current condition of all of those parking lots and that pavement, we did have a pavement assessment completed earlier this year. We did the last, we have had that done before. The last time we did one of these assessments was in 2015. So we felt like it was time to go back and relook at our parking lots. So I wanted to highlight just a couple things. We did provide the report from our engineers in board pack. Summarizes the findings. I wanted to highlight just a couple things in here. The result of the report, the engineers do the assessment and they come up with a condition rating, a surface rating for each of our parking lots. This shows kind of where those ratings fall based on the score, the number 0 to 100, 100 being very, very good, perfect parking lot. The good news is that the average score of our 25 parking lots, of our 25 asphalt parking lots is 82, which is nice because then we fall, somewhere here between fair and good is the average of all of our parking lots. So that's good news. And some other good news, what I think is good news, is that our worst parking lot was about 65, scored about a 65, which is here, which is poor, which, they consider significant aging, needing patching and resurfacing or possible reconstruction. Category. As I said, our worst one was 65. And so I think that's, thanks to our maintenance program that we have, the seal coating that we've been doing for a number of years now, I think has helped us maintain those above kind of higher scores.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, absolutely.
Work usage, does that take into consideration both staff as well as residents down at Grove?
You mean on the larger chart?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll get to that in just a minute. Yep.
Forgive me.
Sure, no problem. So the report also has, examples of some of what they call the pavement distress types, which is basically ways that the parking lots fail. So there's quite a few of those listed in here. Certainly, if anyone's interested in learning more about asphalt parking lots, there's plenty of information there. But I just wanted to highlight one graph in here. So this is a nice, what I think is a nice graph that demonstrates the lifespan of asphalt parking lots. And as you can see here, at around year 15, the condition of those parking lots significantly declines. That typically, as they say here, there's a 40% drop in quality in the first 75% of its life, another 40% drop then in the next 12%. So very rapidly declines as it hits kind of that 15-year mark. What this is also showing us is that by doing maintenance, or what they're calling preservation to parking lots, such as seal coating, you can help to prolong that, extend that out. What's not completely accurate about this is they make it seem like doing that maintenance can get it all the way back up to 100, which is not likely. But what we're doing really is with our seal coating and our other maintenance work that we do, we're pushing this out further. So rather than being this rapid decline, this steep slope, it's really more of a gradual slope that extends further out. So we do have several parking lots that are beyond 20 years old, several lots that are over 20 years old, but yet none of our lots are down here in this very poor category or rating. Thankfully, they're all, like I said, the worst being poor or slightly above this 4 line. So, we're doing a good job of preserving that. So results of the assessment that we had completed. We were provided with all of our parking lots and a rating score for each of our lots. As you can see here, in this chart, they ranked them, or they listed them by score, low to high. You can see here our worst condition parking lot is actually our administrative offices parking lot. So we took this information and we plugged it into this other assessment, this inventory and assessment table that we've had for a number of years now. Staff created this back in 2015 when the last pavement assessment was completed, and just has allowed us to kind of prioritize the replacements over the years. We did plug in the new here, so that's reflecting the new scores. But we also take into consideration, rather than just the score, there are other things that we want to consider when we're ranking these, such as park usage, and things like that. So this, I know, John, you had a question about park usage. That was really our just internal assessment of how often we feel like that the parking lot is used. Obviously, McCollum, one of our highest ones, and certainly here, the rec center, those being year-round type use, whereas, a lot of our parks, the playgrounds may not see much use in the wintertime, but this facility sees use all year round, as does McCollum just about all year round. And with the amount of amenities there, anytime you have ball fields, they're going to see more traffic. So that's kind of how we looked at the usage, was just our own kind of evaluation of what we feel is the usage.
Yep. I was asking because I was surprised to see that the administration offices did not have a PCR rating of 5. Given the heavy use,
It's daily,
but
use, sure.
it's daily use, sure. And I realize, it's probably 9 months of heavy daily use and
Yeah.
3 to 4 months of, I would say lighter use.
Sure.
Right, for some of the commercial equipment that's going to that. Okay,
Yep.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Yeah. So I think, just the one thing we wanted to highlight on here is what's really important for the parking lot assessment is really to have kind of the top 5 to 10, which, we highlight here. Because when we go to prepare our capital improvement plan, our 5-year capital plan, we know then what our highest priorities are and to try to work those into the plan. In the case of parking lots, they may not fit into the plan exactly in the order that they're ranked here. And that's partly because of the wide range of costs of these parking lots. You can see even on here, they range from anywhere from, $34,000 for a small lot at the museum versus $330,000 for one of the parking lots in McCollum. So because of the big range of dollar amount, we really have to work at trying to fit the pieces together in the capital plan of where we can get those worked in. But at least this helps us to know which are the higher priorities when we go to do that capital plan. And then the last thing on paving or on parking lots that I wanted to mention was just that the commissioners had engineers for some input on costs associated with pavers. Their opinion was that when replacing an existing parking lot, that to change it to permeable pavers could add 2 to 3 times the cost. If we're trying to change it over to that type of surface. So it would be a fairly significant impact. That's different if we're building a new parking lot from scratch. So for example, Dorhofer Park, we have a permeable paver parking lot. Our only one that we have right now is at Dorhofer, the south parking lot. And we built that from scratch. We bought the property and there was no parking lot there. And so that project, it was would have been a $400,000 parking lot from scratch. And it added about $100,000 to go from asphalt to permeable pavers. So went from a $400,000 project to a $500,000 project. It only added 25% to the overall project cost, but that's because we were working from scratch. We were already going to be building some of the infrastructure that you need for those pavers. In terms of an existing parking lot, we would have to dig up a lot more of what's there already. The difference in cost between just resurfacing versus changing it to permeable pavers is quite a bit higher. Certainly we'll look into that option, you know, as we move forward on a case by case basis, whether it's.
Just for sake of conversation.
Sure.
Would you mind sharing, when we put that permeable lot in,
That was 2010.
2010? And, I know you probably don't have this number at your fingertips, so I'm sorry for even asking. But maintenance for the last 14 years, the south lot.
I would say very little. Now, one of the disadvantages of permeable paver parking lots is they're difficult to plow snow. At that particular lot, we knew we had two other parking lots at Dorhofer Park, and so we knew we wouldn't necessarily need to plow that lot in the winter. There's not a lot of activity there in the winter. So we don't plow it in the winter, I don't believe, at all. And then beyond that, there hasn't been, I don't believe there's been any maintenance. I think that with permeable lots, you are supposed to clean out, there's the voids between the pavers.
Yeah.
And you are supposed to clean those out. That to see if that's due soon, but to date, we have not done really any maintenance there.
Thanks, Paul.
So is there a potential cost savings to having pavers other than the initial cost?
I think considering our asphalt lots, we do seal coat those, and so there is some cost that we're not spending on that permeable lot. And then I think this is kind of our first one. We're waiting to see the lifespan of the pavers to see, how long that hopefully they actually last longer than the 20. Pavers are actually individually made out of concrete, so they should last a long time. If we're not plowing it and damaging them with a snow plow, they should last. So there could be, so potentially a long-term savings.
And that's what, Paul, the other benefit is the ecology is you're not using anything that's chemical based. And the amount of chemicals that go into asphalt, although obviously the EPA says you could use it, but concerning for environmental in the future and using a petroleum based product. When I mentioned this before, I'd like to see if we can do some way to wean us off of that.
Sure.
Lyman Woods would be a great example where I would like to see that more of a natural area where we're using a chemical-free basin for the parking lot.
Sure.
The new Village Hall Civic Center and how they used a combination of that. So the drives are where you drive all the time and heavy plow is asphalt, but the parking stalls themselves
Our pavers.
are pavers. And I thought that was a very interesting combination because it isn't just the plow, it's also the weight and the amount of traffic and the pavers start moving. So I just thought that was I want to see how that works because it'd be interesting. Yeah.
And actually Lyman Woods, I know I'm sorry, but would also be a good place for the EV as well. I mean, as part of our branding of more of a nature. Anyway, I'm sorry, Paul.
Sure, no problem. Any other questions on parking lots before we move on to playgrounds?
Real quickly for the museum, and one of the things when I went over there and looked at it, is there any way or is there any plans to try to get some sort of increase in parking? It's difficult, but we had the dedication for Bloggett House. Parking was a premium, and especially with Maple Avenue, parking is difficult to say the least.
We have considered in the past trying to do some parking, possibly like angled parking along the driveway as we can into the park. So we've intentionally not planted any new trees and say 25 feet or so of the driveway, anticipating that we may want to consider that at some point. So that's something we could look at. We'd have to have it designed and see what impact the stormwater impact of detention, but that's one area where permeable pavers can help as well, is with detention. So that is something we could look at.
Thanks, Paul.
The other assessment that we just wanted to share with you was related to our playgrounds. Again, this is a way for us to prioritize the playgrounds replacements. This assessment was developed in-house that James and I put this together back in 2016 as a way to kind of evaluate and prioritize the replacements. Prior to this table being created, we typically were just replacing them based on their age. Just the oldest playground got replaced next. And we were realizing that some playgrounds were a higher priority for different reasons. And so we looked at a few different categories, looked at, ranking based on the manufacturer or the brand of equipment. The age does play a role and is included, but the park usage, I think, is another factor and is one that we included in the overall condition. So it gave us kind of a score for each one. In the cases where where the score is equal, or where where there's several that are the same score, we then use the age as kind of the secondary way to rank those. So this again shows how we get to our playgrounds as they're represented in the 5-year capital improvement plan. And then we did also include a couple other things in the board pack, the OSLAD grant evaluation criteria. We included that. There was some discussion at a previous meeting about OSLAD grant, just in case there's questions about that. Related to the OSLAD grant, we did, and the one that we just submitted for McCollum Park Playground, we got an email this week from Department of Natural Resources saying that they're close to having an announcement for those. Their email said possibly in the next couple of weeks. So potentially in December, we might hear back regarding the McCollum Park OSLAD grant application.
I just want to point out, kudos to IPD. They worked really hard with IDNR to get them to move up that process a little bit. What was happening before, we sometimes went here until May, June, or July. By then, all those projects, you've missed an entire construction season. So they worked really hard with the department trying to push that up. So it's good to hear it seems to be working.
So tonight we have the capital improvement plans, to look at potential projects for next year. This first one is the plan that was presented at the September board meeting, which did include the Dorhofer tennis court, looking at using that modular surface on the tennis and pickleball courts there. It had 2 playgrounds included, the Warrenville roof resurfacing now that the HVAC is done, replacing a boardwalk at Lyman, some architectural drawings for the rec center, and a master plan for Lyman Woods. We've prepared an alternate plan, which we also included, and I gave a hard copy to the board members. Just showing if we were to, if the board wanted to wait on Dorhofer, if we weren't comfortable maybe with that modular surfacing, that if we were to push that out to potentially 2027, what that would look like next year, what other projects could happen next year. So we actually were able to move up a 3rd playground. So we added Prince Pond Playground to the list. East parking lot and driveway. What I have shown, the 50,000 that I have shown in here, would not include expanding if we wanted to look at expanding that lot, but this was just to resurface as the current footprint. So just looking for feedback from the board on capital projects for next year.
Yeah, and that was gonna be my question. If we were to do the parking lot for the museum next year, is it already too late to start looking at expanding the surface of the parking lot, or would that still be possible?
If we were to, I would need to engage a civil engineer to do kind of the design and the stormwater calculations and things like that. If we were to start right away, in December, we could probably still get that ready to go out to bid. It would probably be, something that would happen later in the year.
And what do you think how easy would it be? Let's say we didn't want to rush that, we didn't want to do that right away.
Yeah.
If we wanted to look at that in 26 or 27, is it easy to add on to a parking lot, or is it really just best to, if you're going to expand it, do the whole thing at once and don't add another section later?
it's certainly more economical to do it all at once. If you're digging up the area and paying for the asphalt, there's economy of, scale to do it all at one time.
One of the things I noticed in the difference between the alternative plan and the regular plan, the official park playground.
Hmm.
What does that look like in terms of like assets? Is that a better surface? Is that a larger surface? Is that another element to the playground? What is that $25,000?
I think it really just allows us to do a slightly larger play structure. I think we're still recommending that we work within the existing footprint. But it just allocates a little more money to make it a little bit more impressive play structure within that.
And I'm very much in favor of that, just because I do see Fisher Park, it gets flooded with children, right? Like during those concerts, so you want to have as much park playground surface as possible for all those kids to have places to go there. My fellow board members remember I did play tennis on that other surface.
Yeah.
It was a different experience. You could say it was better or worse, but it wasn't the same. That much was true. So, I am leaning toward the alternative plan and just doing the Dorhofer right in the future. There's one other change though that I wanted to bring up, and I know that Commissioner Lunt has brought up the chain link fence at the Prairie before. In the alternate plan, that goes from 2027 to 2029. But it's already getting back at 2027, which is already, apparently, I have not personally heard complaints about the fence, but you have mentioned there are concerns about the fence. But I see the projects that are in 2028, why we don't want to move those back. There's a lot of park assets there that look like it's aging assets that you can't let age any bit more. But if there were a way to bump up the chain link fence there at Belmont,
Sure.
Be interested. We got some time to plan for that. It wasn't planned for 2027 anyway, so it's an immediate concern. But to my fellow commissioner, I just say, I like the idea of a better official park, and I like the idea of a service for tenants that people are more accustomed to.
And was the thought process to push the parking lot resurfacing of the administrative offices back to 28 because the future of that facility is still in question?
It had more to do with the dollar,
Okay, dollar amount.
working within the same dollar amounts for each year.
Yeah.
That by pushing Dorhofer down to 27 and then making it the larger kind of full renovation, that caused several things to get pushed down the list
Got it.
in order to keep the overall capital numbers the same in both plans.
And keep in mind, Rick, if we were to still own admin, but just run portion of it out, it'll still be our responsibility regardless of who's residing there.
Yeah, and there's maintenance services. Look, my concern, with that parking lot facility is that, at some point in time, it could be detrimental to the vehicles that we use and that you guys all operate to access the facility. And that just introduces, wear and tear and incremental cost to the park district, and that's not lost on me. So I was just, and when we took a tour of that facility, we certainly talked about, parking lot surfaces, and I haven't forgotten about it.
There also could be opportunities to do some of these slightly earlier, all dependent on a future board as to how we handle the rollover bond issuance.
Yeah.
Capital, that would probably come sometime in 2027 if a board wanted to move with that. So we would be able to potentially pull some of these projects or others off the back of this sheet or elsewhere to attempt to complete some more.
Yeah.
Question on the Dorhofer, I'd like to be clear. Does that include the basketball courts then, or?
Yes.
Oh,
And maybe just also for some additional clarity, Prince Pond does not include the pavilions. That's just the playground structure, correct?
Correct.
Because didn't we talk about it at a prior meeting? Was it two months ago? There was some concern over the pavilions at Prince Pond as well. Did we not, did we talk about that? Am I
Talking about the warming shelter at the,
Yes.
I don't
Yeah.
recall.
No, we did not. Okay, that's just on me then.
One thing we were talking about, Kevin and I were just talking about, related to Prince Pond was if we do the playground, you'll see it's a, a fairly large dollar amount for a very, very small playground, small footprint. But that park does currently have a, and in order to do the either synthetic turf or poured rubber that we would like to do, we need a concrete curb. So we would be replacing that curb. That's why that's built into the Prince Pond playground number. Kevin and I were talking about it, and there is a retaining wall on the back of the shelter, between the shelter and the playground, that could use some help as well. So we may need to look at how we might be able to either rebuild that or roll that kind of improvement into the playground as well.
Okay.
I can't picture the wall.
You don't really see it unless you walk down. If you're on the playground, you don't really realize there's a retaining wall there.
Okay.
Just looking at the back of the shelter there, the warming shelter. But if you walk down the hill to the front of the shelter, you can look behind the building and there is a retaining wall.
Yeah, I just can't picture it.
That's because you're not.
No, I'm in favor. I agree with Commissioner Bender. I do like alternative one. And I think there was numerous conversations the board has had regarding, have a good time. And I think we kind of agreed, correct me if I'm wrong, it was gonna be one of the top priorities. So no, I like alternative one, even though that fence that drives me crazy gets pushed out a little bit. That's fine. I mean, it is what it is. Again, we can look at it, I'm sure, but
So so park staff went down there and we actually removed the portion that was laying down and kind of all over the place in there.
Along the south edge.
Right. And we,
that marsh area, right?
Right.
Okay, and there's that house directly to the south.
yes,
Okay.
we were able to get down there finally because it's very seldom there's no water in there.
Yeah.
So we went down there, pulled all that out. We did talk to John Nelson from the Illinois Nature Preserve, and he said you don't really have to have it there. However, Paul and we feel that we need a fence there. But for now, we pulled it out of there just because it didn't look very good. So that's where we're at with that.
No, thanks, Kevin. Paul, great job. But again, for the reasons, I do like the natural, not the artificial, with the tennis courts. I agree that I'm not a big fan.
The current surface, you're saying you prefer the current? Okay.
Right, but yeah, and if you're asking for consent, I do like alternative one. I especially like the increased footprint for that playground official. Something we talked.
Just to be clear, we would not increase the boundary of the playground would not change. What I'm saying is that we can do a larger play structure within that.
In the existing.
Yeah.
And a higher capacity.
My
Something bigger than what's there now.
Because you also might be able to do a secondary piece in that open area.
There's space within the boundary, the area that's now wood chips. There is some space that's not being utilized now for play that could for more equipment essentially.
So, but if 2025, will that be completed or before or after the concert series?
That would likely be after.
After, okay.
At this point, just to make a fall installation, we'll be starting our process. We usually will send out surveys to our neighbors for a playground project to the surrounding community. That goes out in January. And then we get playground designs from the different manufacturers, usually in February. We'll go out to bid in March, awarded in April. Contractor will place the order for the equipment in May, just to be able to get it here in time for a fall installation. So at this point, all the playgrounds would be a fall
No, good job.
Eric, do you remember when we changed our fiscal year?
Yes, that was 2014 going into 15.
And that was.
We had a 7-month fiscal year.
That we switched from kind of a midsummer was to the calendar year was just for that. Because
So-
what was happening, it was July when we were starting these projects, and then it was almost a year before they came in.
Our fiscal year was May 1st before,
Okay,
and we flipped it. Because with May 1st, you're just starting your fiscal year, and if you spend over on your projects, you're paying for it the rest of the year. On the opposite side, if you have some savings, you can do more. You can't do much. Plus, it was very, very difficult to plan, from what I understand, and do all the bidding and stuff.
I also like alternate one, but getting back again, the door, which one, and I like the surface. Matching the existing surface, but in the meantime, there is some spalling, some cracking, can we do some maintenance repairs?
I think, yeah, we. And see if we can get a price to just come in and fill some of the cracks and a couple of spots that have broken loose. My guess is at this point, they're probably booked up early in the year. They bid projects in the fall for the next spring. So it might be June, July before they can get there, but we were gonna look at trying to fill some cracks there.
And, I trust you appreciate our fondness for the parking lot assessment.
Good, thank you.
That's very interesting. It's 735,000 square feet, 17 acres of land.
In parking.
Just in parking. I would be in favor of further evaluation of permeable lots, realize I realize the economic impact. I also realize the operational risks as well. I still would like to see the evaluation. I do think it's aesthetically pleasing. And I also think that it could potentially work well in areas that are for the district that are more environmentally friendly.
Sure.
One of the areas that we can look, correct me if I'm wrong, but we are looking at expanding at the museum along the drive. Maybe that's an opportunity because we're not digging out the existing, it's new.
Yeah.
And then I think that'll look, because it's gonna encroach into the lawn that's there, that may look better too. So maybe that's an opportunity for us to look at it. And if we can't get it to fit into 25, maybe we can figure out how to get it into 26. We can always fit it in as an alternate too.
Sure.
Paul, thank you for putting this information together.
Sure.
that's right.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for the direction.
Fine. Garden plot survey.
Dawn.
All right, I'll kick it off. So we conducted the garden plot survey. It was sent out to our 156 gardeners. And the survey took place from October 25th through November 12th. We had 43 respondents, and that was about a 28% return. As you can see from the results in the board pack, a majority of the respondents on both the fall and spring preparations, over 80%, said that they would like to continue with the park district, turning the plots over in the fall and then doing the tilling in the spring. And then we did have some who said that they were in favor of the plots remaining undisturbed, but 80% of those were not willing to move their plots. We received a few email responses outside of the survey. Those were very few. We had 2 emails. It seemed that a common theme was just some ruts or trenches that were caused by the tires from the maintenance vehicle that did the work. And that was it for the results. I do want to turn it over to Kevin to kind of talk about his recommendations moving forward.
So, for this year, we're recommending to just keep it the way we're, basically turn it over this fall as long as the weather holds out and then go ahead and disc it in the spring. However, we want to look at some alternative, like an implement such as just a tiller that we put on the back of a tractor. Maybe we come in the fall and the spring and do it that way. However, we don't have that budgeted for next year, so and staff is looking into options of doing that. We feel that it would overall it would be a better product if we used a regular tiller behind a tractor. However, like I said, it's I think the gardeners still like it prepared in the fall. The challenge that we have is at the end of the year, I mean, it looks like it's a jungle in there. And we have to go in and mow it. And we pull all the stakes, pull all the garbage, everything out of there, go in and mow it, and then come back in and just turn it over with a plow. And there's a lot that goes into it. However, I think there are some different options we could look at for the future, which staff is doing that now. But for now, I say we, just keep it the way we've been doing it. And then look, into the future to make some changes as far as that goes.
Paul, I was gonna ask, is there any best practices? When I was reading this, I was just wondering either some sort of position paper or something from any of the universities regarding agriculture or best practices for this?
Right. So that's some stuff that we're going to continue looking into. I did look up a little bit with the University of Illinois has their extension and things like that, they help out over at the museum with their garden and things like that. So that's something we could look into. Like I said, I think right now, I don't think we're in the position to make changes this year. However, in 26, I'm thinking we could do some things differently. We will address, there are some gullies in some of the areas. We're going to address that with one of the pull behind tillers we currently have. But like I said, staff is looking into different options of obviously to improve, what we're doing.
Have we reached out to the gentleman that came to the meeting and let him know, or just?
So,
with him?
so Blake met with them out at the garden plots, and we had most of the feedback back already, so he did share some of that with them. However, I will reach back out to him to kind of let him know what our plan is, and then things, we're gonna look at in the future as well.
I was impressed. How much food did he donate?
I thought he said it like 900 pounds,
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, it was quite a bit.
Thank you.
But he's out there a lot, and he was very involved with, the scouts and things like that. So they're out there helping him as well.
Illinois State University also has their North Bloomington farm. They may have some educational material
Right.
published on their site.
Okay.
So thank you, Don, for doing the
Yeah.
survey. The gardening community is not one that I am tapped into, so I did not know how they felt.
Yeah.
The survey was a great idea. For conducting something that to us.
Well, and you can see, I mean, there's, it's right around 300 plots, and we sold 237 plots this year. With 156 households. Several with, 4 plots or so, 4 or 5 plots.
Amongst itself.
Is, yeah, there's a.
I'm glad we offer it. Take it off.
Oh, yeah.
Any new business?
We do not.
need for executive session.
No.
And I will announce that the next board meeting will be held December 12th, 2024, at the Recreation Center in this room, multi-purpose.
Adjourn.
No, Jim?
Second.
Mr. Bender,
Aye.
Mr. Lunt,
Aye.
Mr. Dahlstrom.
Aye.
Mr. Katsula.
Aye.